Hi everyone, Tim Hollenshade with CABA again. Today I have with me Tony Prescott. He is the Ford
Asset Program Coordinator.
All right, not to be confused with the GM.
General Motors ASAP.
All right. So even I learned something new here. Yeah,
Ford Asset.
You've actually been my instructor at one point early.
Yeah, climate control.
You're an incredible instructor, one
Thank
that
you.
I was glad to have, definitely. I take pride in my AC work now.
Yeah, I love teaching AC. One of my favorites.
So basic questions first. What made you get into the industry?
Easy question. I've always been a car guy, 100% from day one. I've always been a Ford guy. I can remember as a child, my father, I was brainwashed. My dad would say, "Tone, how do you spell truck?" And I'd say F-O-R-D. So, and I've always been into cars. Senior year of high school, long story short, I break my foot in high school football practice. Season's over. I'm limping around, and I helped a friend of mine pull the engine out of a 70 Chevelle. He said, "Why don't you come over to the gas station? We'll get you a job," and the rest is history. I just decided this was it. And then in the late 80s, I made the switch. I got tired of saying, take it to the dealer, so I made the switch to Ford, and the rest, they say, is history.
Did you do a magnet program at your high school level?
No, wood shop in high school, wood 1, 2, and 3, and it was actually the auto shop teacher that hired me. He said, "I'll give you a chance and see what you can do." And
so that instructor was actually functioning and working in industry as well.
Correct. He hired his students, and it was a very good deal that we had. I mean, he had a shop that employed his students, and it was, you know, I feel like I left out by not doing a high school program. Yeah. I feel like there's still things that I could be better today at if I had that experience.
The entry level candidate nowadays compared to a generation ago just hadn't used hand tools. So
Correct.
Even though you weren't working on cars, you were gaining familiarity with tools,
right.
hand type of work, skilled, you know, that
Correct.
nut and bolt kind of understanding.
It's high school, working at a gas station, going to a tech school. And I go to school during the day, and in the evenings I go to the gas station and work on cars. And it was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday I'd pump gas. Tuesday, Thursdays I was in the shop, and then flip-flop the following week. You know, so it was a lot like this: school during the day, work in the evenings. And then when I graduated, I went to Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, and spent 5 years at Goodyear, and then made the switch to the Ford flag.
You know, many get in industry, realize, okay, this could be for me, and then they get serious about the education. We have other people that, you know, come at it from the schooling route and then later find their way. So different ways work. What was the training and the structure? Did Goodyear Tire and Rubber put you in
I went to a national tech school. They're still around.
I think we can say
Lincoln
right?
Tech.
Lincoln Tech. Yeah, we'll get it out of the way.
I went to Lincoln Technical Institute. It was over on Wilkins Avenue at the time. I got what I thought was an outstanding education. The instructors at the time, every one of them were out of Aberdeen, retired military. They ran a very tight ship, small class size, 15, 20 students, and we went through phases just like we do here. This program started, if I'm correct, in 1987 here, when they moved into the building with General Motors. Yeah. I did do some training at Goodyear. They kept us up to date, but I always knew I wanted to work at a dealer. At that time, I applied at Catonsville, Baltimore in October and didn't get the job until February because there were no openings.
Wow.
Can you imagine that today?
No.
Can you imagine someone walking in and saying, "Well, you're going to have to wait, we have no openings"? You know, right now, the easiest part of my job is getting one of my students placed. I literally ask them, "Where do you live at? Here's 3 dealers. Where do you want to work?" And some of my dealers are picking up 2, 3 technicians at a time, entry-level techs. So that has become the easiest part of my job.
It's twofold. I mean, a good candidate that is focused is obviously a blessing to any business and shop.
Sure.
But it also speaks to what those businesses, how they view this program, and,
Right.
and the instructors like yourself that are here putting the time in with the students. I mean,
Exactly.
someone coming out of this program is definitely has a base level. They're somewhat of a known product in a sense, maybe not necessarily tested and vetted completely yet.
Sure. It takes a long time to learn how to do this.
That's a good point to make to any young
Right.
person, that this industry very much rewards what one puts into it.
Oh, I
That-
agree. Yeah, I agree.
You see that in
Yeah.
your students' success stories?
Absolutely. You see students come in here, and what they see coming in, they see the techs that have been here a few years, and they're driving new pickup trucks, and they got nice shiny toolboxes, and they see that that can be them. And in the first semester, the transition from a very green entry-level technician to someone who actually comes back and is now giving me input of what they're seeing in the industry, because they have their hand on the pulse. They're seeing real life every day, where we don't, in the classroom, we don't get to see that as much. It's really nice to watch them grow from a C-level entry technician at different phases through the.
There's many businesses out there that have hired your graduates and understand watching that development is
Sure.
really rewarding. I remind them there's a few places that the businesses that have hired alumni understand at that phase what they need to do to complement that chapter in their development. Kind
Sure.
of starting to get through some jobs that these cars are beautiful, and Doug outlined all the support y'all have, but these have not been driving around rusty Maryland, with the salt on the roads.
Oh my
for,
goodness, right.
20,000 miles a year, and a seasoning curve, I guess, to the technician. So let's.
When I went to Ford, I was green, and I was that guy from the tire shop who supposedly knew how to do shocks and struts. And I have no training at this point in time. So I had to start with the different types of training that they had at the time, get the prerequisites done, and then go to the training center. And that opened up an entire new world for me. I knew in high school I wanted to teach. This isn't something I just woke up one day and said, I think I'll go teach today. I've always wanted to do this. So I really considered teaching at the dealership level. So I was fortunate enough to be in a situation to get all my Ford training done and become a Ford Master Technician. I think that took me about 8 to 10 years, because as you get close to obtaining a master, they change the requirements, and then you got to go take courses again. And then sometime around 1998, I became a senior master technician, which means all of the training. And that was definitely a milestone, but that's a love of training and having the right support of the dealer to actually send you to school.
So you had the traits in you've succeeded by understanding that continued education
Oh,
is
absolutely.
critical.
It's for our students, I tell them when they leave us that you're on your own now. When you're here, we have a structured curriculum. You're going to do this, this, and this at this time frame. When you hit the dealer, you're on your own. You have to be responsible for your own training. You have to look at your training planner, see what needs to be done as far as webs are concerned. If a classroom course comes up, you have to be in the service manager's office saying, send me to school. You have to be the squeaky wheel if you want to stay current. Yeah. And to stay current is the only way to stay, I guess, at the top of the pay grade, or at the top of that food chain, which is where we all want to be. No one cares, no one is going to care more about your training than you. So if you want to stay current, you have to be that squeaky wheel.
They're responsible for their own development.
Yeah, right.
Path,
You're responsible for your own, exactly. Because that's, for me, that was always a sense of pride, saying that I'm current. I have everything. I have all my certifications.
Many might necessarily do the Asset Ford program, but then find their way either into independent, like
sure.
member businesses for CABA, or.
We see our graduates, they'll leave the Ford dealership and go to a Chevrolet dealership. And cars are cars, you know that. The terminologies are different, but it's still a car. And they can do that. They can definitely make that transition. I guess students need to find their own path, and they seem like they do that.
Responsibility, independence, there's a lot of different words thrown around when we talk about what was different 30 years ago.
My.
And now,
Yeah.
right, you have a very, for anyone who knows Tony, you're very positive, and you bring an incredibly good energy to the classroom.
I try to, yeah. If you like what you do, I have the pleasure of having a class in front of me. They want to be here. They actually want to be here. They want to learn, and that's my advantage. They're not. This isn't a course that they have to take for graduation, this is something that they're going to enjoy.
And that's what makes the alumni that graduate this program so valuable to the businesses that they
Yes.
transition into, is that wanting to be here, that they want to be in this industry, not just in the
Right.
school. They want to get through that so they can move on to the next chapter when they're in the business succeeding and see the opportunity and then the expectations. That translates to success in the business that they're in.
I agree. I think passion, if you have a passion for something. I think too, I feel very lucky because I've always been a Ford guy. They pay me to talk about cars all day long, and I get to talk about the Ford product. That doesn't get a whole lot better than that. I feel like I've sort of hit the jackpot on that one.
We've seen many candidates join the industry that otherwise wouldn't have, whether that was the pandemic, they were sitting at home, they realized an opportunity to get out and get their hands on things was here in a program like this, or because of outside factors like ADAS, AI.
Oh, yeah.
It's brought a spotlight on the industry, and we have some candidates and a quality, you mentioned a quality, a student that's coming into this program that we haven't seen in a while.
I agree with that. Here, our students had a choice, and they chose to come back, and that showed the drive in our students. What I'm seeing today is a lot of folks really talk down about our younger folks coming out of high school. I have never seen better candidates. I mean, I think we've always had good candidates here, but they seem to be getting better and better. Solars Point, Cat North, Cat South, Frederick, I hope I'm not missing anybody. The candidates that we're getting out of these schools, incredible. They're next level. And the dealers are picking these guys up in their senior year, and they're coming to me with STARS ID and training already done. And I'm amazed at the level that's coming in. And a lot of that has to do with the dealers, Ford stepping in at the high school level, but I'm thrilled with what we're seeing coming in here today. Currently, about 1/3 or more of my students are placed before they walk through the door, which is incredible.
This program benefits from a couple different perspectives, that you have some that employers are encouraging them to come. That's always a responsible. If you have a talented technician or aspiring apprentice, and they're not already in this program and they seem motivated, it's in everybody's best interest, the businesses and the students, to try to encourage them to get over here in any way possible, or even if it's for a certificate.
Right.
You also have the students that come in that don't necessarily have a career or a job placement yet, and you guys have it seems to be a huge value adder.
We get guys that walk through the front door and they're just like, wow. And they don't know the difference of Ford and a GM, and they're like, I don't really know what I want to do. And we do a really good job. The entire staff does a great job of not recruiting. They'll tell these students that come in that don't know what they want to do, they give them all the options, all the different opportunities, and let them make that choice. And it doesn't matter which direction they go. They're going to get a great education, and they're going to have a job. A thermistor is still a thermistor. So they're assuming that a technician comes in, already has these basic skills, and now we're going to learn how to apply it to this vehicle. Basic electricity and electronics. And if you understand that, you can understand what's going on with this vehicle here. So it's amazing how the basic foundation carries through your entire career. It doesn't matter if we're talking about climate, brakes, it's all basic.
The foundational knowledge that this program and the curriculum instill in apprentices or instructors is going to serve them through their whole career, that the stuff they learn in these first 2 years in the program, they're going to be leaning on that through their whole career, give them an understanding of what's expected of them in industry to make that transition easier.
They know right away, because we send them to work in our first semester is 10 weeks. We send them to works and they know what to do, how to, most of them know. Some of them have to learn not to be on their phones all day long. But we try to teach them not to run to the shop foreman every 5 minutes. At least get to the point of, okay, the sunroof or the moonroof does not open. Let's go to a symptom chart before we go to the shop foreman. Before I ask, maybe I should do my own research. So we're very big on that here. Do research. There's tons of material out there for you to use.
What you said is really important also for the business owners and the shop foremans that are watching this now, is it's very easy in the heat of the moment or the day when we're busy and we're trying to stare down, completing dozens of vehicles. by the time people get off work and want to pick them up, sometimes it's easier to just go show or to do for. And that doesn't ultimately, that shop foreman that was doing a good job back then, you realize now that it was a service, not a disservice.
He's got 30 plus techs he's got to control, so you can't rattle his cage every time you have an issue. You have to provide so much for yourself. You have to be ready for everything. And you can't rely on someone else to make your money.
And with the foundation of this program, they will be prepared for whatever comes their way, because they won't know, graduating this program, we don't know what's 10 years.
Our technicians are very adaptable. They adapt to anything. I can remember being a Ford tech in a Ford dealership. We don't work on other vehicles. We don't work on those. We only work on these. And then Ford and Mazda get together and come up with a probe, which is basically a Mazda vehicle, and we fix that car like it was just another vehicle, because all in all, they're all just vehicles. The way the market is now, everyone needs technicians. And if someone's willing to work, let's give them a shot and see what they can do. I think that's a good thing.
That's the story of this industry. If anybody watching that understands, and those watching that are especially the ones at the Bull and Oyster Roast that are going to share in celebration of our industry on one day a year, they know that this industry's always provided opportunity for those willing to kind of put what they can into it.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree with that.
Your most successful students now that are graduating, what do you feel traits separate them from the other?
The willing to put in the time. I always relate things to athletics, being bigger, stronger, faster, and it takes time. And technicians, patience. You got to have patience and practice. It doesn't. Like I say, it took me a long time to master front end alignments. And if you're willing to put the time in, the reward is out there for you. Think about what we do. You have to be 100% right 100% of the time. If you misdiagnose something, it happens. You get to the end and the car's not fixed. That's an issue. But how does 70% on a brake job work out? You have to be 100% of the time. And that's a lot of pressure. And to slow down a little bit, focus on quality. I think that's a big thing for me.
Because the comebacks are very costly. As any business owner out there, if you're busy fixing, or if you're conducting rework, that's not a future job that you're pushing ahead with.
Exactly.
So that it's a double whammy.
Exactly. And I mean, that's a big thing right there. I mean, you have to really be cognizant of what you're doing and focused on what you're doing. You got to be good. I mean, that's the bottom line. You have to be good.
We've seen some that were very successful out of a VOTEC program and then came here and clearly used that foundation to be ahead of the class. But then they, in a sense, get complacent or feel that that's going to be that way in the professional setting. And that's not true. No different than the sports analogy that, okay, well, you might have been bigger, faster, stronger in high school or at the collegiate level. And then once you get to the big leagues, everybody's fast, everybody's strong. So then what? And that's where the discipline, the hard work, the focus, the coming into work when you're a little under the weather to push through it.
Oh my goodness,
it makes a difference.
I always felt when I worked at the dealer, this is it. There's nowhere else to go. If I can't fix this vehicle, what's going to happen? At the dealer level, we do have the luxury of a hotline or a field service engineer. But I always took pride in saying, I'm going to fix this thing. I think that's a big thing right there is pride.
And we're very grateful, and we like that you sat down with us today.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us and watching today.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Yep.